Hello everyone, this is your weather on the fly outlook and discussion for Friday, March 28, 2025. Update concerning convective outlook days 1 to 3. For today, there is a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms across parts of the upper Midwest into Nebraska and across the western Gulf Coast states. Southern Stream Upper Trough is currently located over northeast Mexico and far south Texas. This feature is forecast to shift slowly east across South Texas into the lower Sabine River Valley by the end of the period, as modest, mid-level flow translates across the northern Gulf Basin. Low-latitude nature of this feature should result in deeper convergence, holding offshore much of the period. This is especially true given the multiple ongoing mesoscale convective systems that are noted from the lower Rio Grande Valley into the northwestern Gulf Basin. Substantial convective overturning has occurred inland, and air mass recovery will be limited across much of the Texas coastal plain. Even so, adequate buoyancy will likely exist across far southeast Texas into southern Louisiana such that a few robust storms could emerge within the larger complex of convection. Forecast soundings suggest a brief tornado or wind gusts will be the primary risks, and this appears to be a low probability threat. Northern Plains upper ridge is forecast to flatten a bit today as heights fall across the Dakotas ahead of a weak shortwave trough. While warm advection will be responsible for multiple bouts of elevated convection, any surface-based thunderstorm development should be noted along and ahead of the cold front as boundary layer temperatures will warm rapidly and lapse rates will steepen. Forecast soundings suggest convective temperatures will be breached by late afternoon along the wind shift over Nebraska, and high-based convection should develop. Gusty winds and hail are the primary concerns with this isolated activity. For Saturday, there is a slight risk of severe thunderstorms from northern Oklahoma into the lower Missouri Valley. As the primary vorticity maximum within a complex, mid-level shortwave trough shifts into the central plains through Saturday evening into the overnight, a surface frontal wave will shift northeastward from the Kansas-Oklahoma border area into northern Missouri and southern Iowa. This will allow a cold front to advance southeastward across Kansas and Oklahoma through the overnight period. While strong capping is forecast ahead of the front through the day, suppressing diurnal storm development, the increase in forcing and ascent after dark should support isolated to scattered storm development, initially across northern Oklahoma and southeastern Kansas, and then spreading northeastward and eastward through the end of the period. Steep lapse rates and moderate instability above the capping layer will allow developing storms to strengthen and organize, aided by veering and increasing flow with height. A few supercells are expected to evolve, with very large hail expected to be the primary risk. Locally damaging gusts may also occur, and a tornado or two cannot be ruled out through the end of the period. Across southern Oklahoma into central Texas, storm development is likely to remain isolated at best, slightly elevated if it does occur, and well after dark. With that said, severe risk, though conditional, is evident if storms develop, given very steep lapse rates and strong instability above the capping layer, and favorably strong southwesterly flow aloft. Therefore, we'll maintain a marginal risk across this area to cover the conditional potential for large hail, and possibly a strong gust with any storm that could develop. For Sunday, there is now an enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms from Illinois, Indiana, and western Ohio southwestward to the Arkansas and northern Mississippi vicinity. An evolving and slowly amplifying mid-level trough is forecast to shift slowly across the central U.S. Sunday. As this occurs, a deepening surface low will shift northeastward across the upper Great Lakes region. A trailing cold front will sweep southeastward across the central U.S. as the low deepens and advances, and should extend from the lower Great Lakes to the central Gulf Coast states by Monday morning. A broad and moist but initially capped air mass is forecast to expand across much of the eastern half of the U.S. Sunday, ahead of the advancing cold front. Daytime heating and continued northward flux of low-level moisture will result in a moderate destabilization. Scattered storms may be ongoing across portions of Missouri northeastward to the Wisconsin area at the start of the period, and possibly in a more isolated manner southwestward into Texas. Local severe risk may accompany this early-day convection. The aforementioned destabilization that is expected should support renewed storm development near the advancing cold front, initially from Illinois southwestward to East Texas, and then spreading eastward and expanding in coverage with time. Along with a favorable thermodynamic environment within which the storms will be evolving, highly favorable shear will also exist, with low-level southerly and southwesterly flow veering and increasing substantially with height-yielding curve, and then elongated hotographs. Supercells are expected within this environment, and very large hail is expected given the cold air and steep lapse rates through the mid-troposphere. Along with a hail risk, damaging wind gusts are expected, particularly where upscale growth into bands occurs. Additionally, this setup appears very favorable for tornadoes, a few of which may be strong and potentially long-lived. Risk will spread eastward with time into the evening and overnight. Some diminishing of the risk should occur late into the upper Ohio Valley, but vigorous storms and all hazards risk will likely continue through the end of the period across the Tennessee Valley and Gulf Coast states. Be sure to share, like and subscribe for the latest Storm Prediction Center outlooks.